Hello, everyone. So, our topic of discussion for today is the learning disabilities and the symptoms of learning disabilities. So, before we actually go to the topic, I just want to add slightly to the preparedness of learning, which is one of the factors facilitating learning. So, just a slight addition to it, that preparedness of learning essentially is basically how much are you prepared, to basically learn a task? How much are you ready to actually learn a task? So, basically, it's like there are certain tasks that probably can be very easy for you, probably very simplified for you, also because you are biologically prepared for it. You are absolutely ready for it, and probably the same tasks can be very difficult for the other person, also because he's not ready for the task, he's not prepared for that task. So, to the extent, of course, to as to how much are you really prepared for the task, how much are you ready for the task, is also going to determine your learning of that particular task. So preparedness of learning essentially is all of that. For instance, maybe let's say if somebody wants to learn how to maybe drive a car, but this person is quite let's say scared of highways, or probably scared of getting banged by a truck. He isn't very confident enough. So the fear of literally putting his hands on the steering wheel has always been an issue for him right from the beginning. It's been a very instinctive fear, it's been like a very inherent fear, like right from the beginning in this person, so of course learning how to drive a car can be an issue for him. For some people probably it can be very simple, exciting, easy, very interesting, and for this person it can be like really a difficult task to perform, to literally gather that courage to learn it. He is not prepared, like we were talking about phobias and certain fears, like how sometimes they are just inherently present in us, at times also passed on to us genetically. So many things, that probably could be passed on to us from our parents. So essentially preparedness for learning is all of that. How much are you biologically prepared to learn the task? If you're ready for it, the learning is going to be quicker, easier, long lasting. If you're not, it's going to be all the more complex for it. you know and basically it is all up to you, like in a way, that how much are you prepared, how much are you ready to learn that task. How much can you grasp from it? Are you ready, are you prepared for it or not? Essentially that is what is there in preparedness for learning. Now of course we have our learning disabilities, which is a very very important topic. And when we talk about learning disabilities, of course it is nothing but a heterogeneous group of disorders. And that would mean that it's something where you will have a diverse group of disorders. You will see a diversity in terms of disorders also. In learning disabilities, there are so many disorders which probably can come under this particular header. you know and mostly seen in six aspects, which you can remember with the help of first letter technique. It is the LSRRWM. I repeat, LSRRWM. So L is your basically, when it comes to nothing but your acquisition of learning. you know then your S is your like speaking. you know R is your reasoning, and of course R also stands for reading. And then you have W for writing, and you have M for mathematics. Anyone who probably could be a case of learning disability or LD will have issues in these areas. Could be more than one, also could be one. Definitely it very clearly reflects that the person could be a case of learning disability. you know so basically, such disorders, when we talk about especially the sources of such disorders, they are very much inherent in the child. They are present in the child, and they probably could originate from various problems, issues pertaining to, of course, the central nervous system. And it could also be like, of course, or something to do with the physical handicaps, or maybe it could be because of the sensory impairment, or maybe intellectual disabilities been there, you know so yeah, there could be many sources of its origination, you know but of course, this particular, which is a situation of learning disability, it can actually happen in case of children, of average to superior intelligence. It can also happen to children who are very, very intelligent. Probably they could be very brainy, and they could also be very average in terms of intelligence. So it can happen, to either average, or probably to the most superiorly intelligent children also, and of course, their in terms of their especially like, if we don't really pay attention to such cases, such children who probably could be battling learning disabilities, it can hamper their self-esteem, their own self-worth, their own value. It can hamper their career aspects in the future, also maybe their social relationships, their daily living activities. All of this can actually get hampered if we don't really pay much attention to kids who probably could be battling learning disability you know and of course, coming to the very next slide, which talks about, the symptoms of learning disability. So, coming to the very first symptom, it's talking about, of course, when kids do show difficulties in writing words, letters, phrases, when they have an issue in reading, speaking, they could also have issues with, listening, and they might not have auditory defects, but they can have listening issues, and they are not very quick with coming up with, learning strategies, learning plans, Secondly, these children, they have a difficulty in paying attention, you know and they do get distracted very easily. They cannot hold attention onto one thing for a very long time, and they could also be very hyperactive, like literally moving around, doing different things, like being a little fidgety. So yes, they are like that. Then of course, thirdly, it's more of like, these kids, they are not, in the sense, having a good space orientation. If probably such children, when they go to absolutely new surroundings, they don't really adjust well there, and they don't really get oriented well over there, and they can even get lost, and they don't really have a good sense of time. Also, they can come very late for certain tasks, they can come before time for certain tasks, and in terms of direction, they don't know what exactly is left, right, up, down. Yeah, they do have issues like that, and the next is, of course, their motor coordination, especially when it comes to movement of their body parts. That's also like poor in some cases, and their manual dexterity is also poor. When we talk about the manual dexterity, it's essentially like, how they can make a coordinated hand and finger movement to grasp and to sort of manipulate the objects, especially when it comes to holding of a pencil. How you hold a pencil, with what grip are you holding a pencil, and also like how you can really make those really small, precise movements, How can you produce those small precise movements, holding of a pencil, making a good grip of it. So they are not very good with that. So yes, they do have a poor manual dexterity as well. And so of course, we also see that they do lack in terms of balance. They can't really sharpen their pencils. They can't really hold doorknobs. Probably also to ride a bicycle there's a difficulty. Essentially, all the skills which you do need in performing the tasks, especially with your hands, they do have a difficulty in that, which also is the poor manual dexterity. Wherever your hand, especially the hands, are used, where all those skills are not performed with that excellence, they do have a difficulty there. And of course, when you give them too many oral directions at one go, they fail to understand. If you tell them that open your history book, move to page number 5, second paragraph, third line, if you say all these things together at one go, all these oral instructions, they probably will be able to grasp only one. They really cannot comprehend, they really cannot understand all the instructions at one go. you know so, yes, they do fail to understand these oral instructions. And of course, next, what's very important is that they are not very sensible in terms of understanding relationships. They do misjudge as to who is the one who probably they can trust and who they cannot trust, who can prove to be a good friend to them and who probably cannot prove to be a good one. And then of course they do have they can show perceptual disorders where of course whatever they're perceiving is essentially not true. They are related to misperceptions. So maybe let's say uh, like whatever, whenever, like maybe something starts ringing, let's say there's a cell phone ringing, maybe they'll go running towards the landline to pick it up. So they basically not differentiate. They do have misperceptions, and they perceive things probably not like how other people would, and for them that would be true, which essentially is not. So these could be the perceptual disorders. Then, of course, very important is that they could also be battling with dyslexia. And dyslexia is something where you do see uh, letters which probably you feel and you find it very very hard to distinguish. And like children get confused between letters like P and Q, P and 9, and 3 and E, B and D. So was and saw, unclear and nuclear. So they write one for another. So they are not very clear with the letters basically. And they also fail to copy letters and words. you know so this is dyslexia, which is also a part of the learning disability. People could be battling this also. Any case of learning disability, LD, could be battling dyslexia as well. So that's also a very important thing. Then of course, you know one thing that we all must remember is that these learning disabilities, they are not incurable. We cannot say that they cannot be cured. It's not like that. It's not like that. They are not incurable. So basically, when you have the remedial teaching methods, the right kind of teaching methods that you put into action, it can actually go a long, long way in really helping the child, to probably become like one of the other students. And yes, there are many psychologists, especially the educational psychologists, who are coming up with very nice appropriate techniques, to basically correct most of these symptoms which could be related to learning disabilities. So definitely, we cannot say that they are not incurable. They can be cured when we make use of the right kind of methods. Definitely, we give them the emotional support, and also supporting them through the right teaching, learning methods. And when they have enough emotional, moral, social support, I'm sure these students can go a long way. Most importantly, compassion for such children is very important. We must be able to really go down to their level and understand, probably what they could be battling, and really support them and be out there for them, and help them get through this. So with this, we come to an end for this particular topic. Thank you so much.